Hey, I'm John Tabler. Welcome back. Today I want to talk about flour. I know that everyone, when you bake bread, you wonder about what flour to use. And it's really important to use the right flour because some flour is just terrible for you and some flour is good for you. And so you really don't want to use the one that's terrible, but it also might not make the best bread and have the best action on the bread. So I'm going to explain everything pretty much about flour. Flour is ground up grain. And right here I have wheat berries. And if you have a grinder, that's awesome because there's nothing more healthy. All the nutrients and everything is stored in that grain and it doesn't degrade or anything. But once you grind it, it does degrade. It's perishable. That's why when you get flour, you always want to look on there and see the date. Like this one, this is 100% whole grain, whole wheat flour, King Arthur brand. That means that this is going to be ground up just like this is ground up. The only difference really is going to be how long since it was ground up. And so on the top, it's going to say best by July 21st of 2024. Of course, you know, they're going to have a date on there, but it's not exact. It starts perishing from the time it's ground, so you want to get it as soon as possible. It has oils and things like that in there that can get old. But the very best is to grind it yourself. Have a grinder like this, and I'll just do a little bit. You pour it in, and then turn the grinder on. And there are pieces in there, just completely grind that grain and turn it into powder. And really, flour is just powdered grain. And so that's done, and then you have all the nutrients of it. That's going to be the very best. The difference in baking with that and baking with a flour that says enriched, pre-sifted, unbleached, all-purpose flour, well, these are a bunch of words that you have to define to know, but it's pre-sifted. So the first thing is, in that ground wheat that I just did, it's going to have everything in there, the bran, all parts of the wheat kernel, and some of those parts are heavy. And so they make the flour more dense. Now they have vitamins, nutrition in there that if you filter them out that you won't get. But it also makes the dough, once you add water, more firm. And so when the air blows bubbles up, it's not so easy to push against that dough and get that as much air and light and fluffiness in there. The really reason that you get light and fluffy bread and things like that is because there's not a whole lot of structure anymore that makes it dense from all the bran and everything because they filter it out. That's what pre-sifted is. You can take a sifter, a 6-inch sifter, and this is in the links down below. You can then sift it out. So I'm just going to get a little bit in there and show you. When you do that, it's just a net, and it looks like it's snowing below it. But really what's coming out is powder, and the powder is everything minus the bran. And I'm going to do this over the bucket so I don't make a big mess. But you get a bowl and do it over the bowl. But what's left, you're going to see here shortly, is the bran and the powder. And look at the difference in color. The bran is thick and gritty right here, and the powder is light and fluffy. That's going to be the most pure way of doing that. But I'm going to mix it all back. Actually, what I want to do is show you what that looks like. The difference in color. You can see that. And so that's the different parts of the wheat kernel. But you can buy it. So when you buy everything, this is everything all in one. When you buy a pre-sifted flour, it's going to have been sifted, and that's what this is. It says unbleached, so that's good, but it says enriched, and really the only reason they're going to have to enrich it is because they're required to by law. They're not going to throw nutrients and vitamins they got to pay money for into this unless they're required to, and they're only required to if they stripped it of those nutrients previously. So that's what happens, is the methods that they will use will strip it of nutrients, and then they're actually required by law to put nutrients back in it, and those nutrients come from very questionable sources. B vitamins from the petroleum industry, this type of thing. So that's really, I'm not messing with that. This one's way worse because this one is all-purpose bleached, enriched. If it's enriched isn't a good thing. Enriched means they were required. And I just said that, but I want to reiterate that. It kind of toys with your mind because it's like, oh, it's enriched. It's enriched because it was degraded first, and then they're required to. Otherwise, they can't call it food. It's in the Code of Federal Regulations that they're required to do it or not be able to sell it as food. So there you go on that. But then it's bleached, and they'll bleach things with all sorts of chemicals that are actually outlawed in other countries. Azidocarbonamide, azidodicarbonamide, and just a whole bunch of unpronounceable things like that. You can make up your own words. I mean, it's ridiculous. So it renders it into non-food, but it makes it light and fluffy, so it feels good in your mouth as you eat it, as you shouldn't eat it. So that's kind of how flours work. There's all varying degrees. This is the best, and then sift it, or you can find a 100% whole wheat sifted flour if you want it to be more relative to making pastries and things like that. But that's how flour works. So they all have gluten. Gluten is the glue or the gummy substance that's in them that fermentation will completely wipe out. And so you don't have to worry about that. So you could use other things like spelt and things like that. The wheat kernel, just some different varieties of wheat will have a little bit more, a little bit less protein, which is gluten. And so that's the deal with that. A lot of people are sensitive to gluten, and that's because you really should be sensitive to gluten because it's like chewing gum. When you chew on those wheat kernels, if you chew them up, pop them in your mouth and keep chewing, you can actually blow a bubble with it. It's called farmer's gum. Do a search on farmer's gum, and you'll see that it's when you chew weed up, and then the bran dissolves off of it, and what you're left with is gum. The gum is what is completely broke down, like turpentine breaks oil or soap breaks oil. This fermentation of the wheat, when you make a starter and then when you add it to the dough, that fermentation in the same way breaks the gluten down. So it makes it digestible, makes all the nutrients multiple times more assimilable. It's a little mouthful. But it allows your body to assimilate those nutrients and nourish your body. And that's what bread really is for, and that's what it was meant to be, and not the chemical concoction that's been put on the shelves in the stores with 30 different ingredients. You're going to make bread with wheat and water. That's it. So that's a breakdown on flours. Hit the like and subscribe button down below, and let me know in the comments what your thoughts are and how everything goes for you. And I'll see you in the next video.